Hey, it's Chris, and I'm sitting here next to the 13-inch M1 powered MacBook Pro. This was announced back in November of last year, and I gotta say, for the better part of my adult life, MacBook Pros have been my go-to laptops. Most recently, the 16-inch MacBook Pro, and the question is, since I've been testing this, has the 13-inch with the M1 chip been able to replace my 16-inch Intel-powered MacBook Pro as my daily workhorse? The battery life on this 13-inch M1-powered MacBook Pro is astonishingly good. It may be my favorite thing about this computer. It means that I can unplug it and edit video for a lot longer than I could on my 16-inch Intel machine, which, with Final Cut running, really doesn't last all that long without an outlet nearby. It also means that I can crank the brightness on this thing up to max just the way that I like it without having too much pushback from the power-saving battery life department. So if I want to game, or if I want to binge The Mandalorian for an extended period of time, or if I just want to surf the internet on the couch instead of staying plugged in at the desk, then the battery life in this machine has my back, and I really appreciate that. In fact, with light usage, you can definitely get away without daily charging, which is something the 16-inch MacBook Pro did not make me used to. I'm not accustomed to that at all. But the battery life isn't all there is to talk about here. As you've likely heard by now, the M1 chip inside of this thing is very fast and powerful. Everything is snappy, so loading apps, running websites, everything feels nice and quick, and it's not lagging. And when it comes to doing some actual work, I can edit 4K footage with multiple angles without this thing really even breaking a sweat. So truly, this thing is a beast. A lot of people out there are calling it the mini Mac Pro. And since I'm a video editor, I know this isn't gonna apply to everybody, but I just have to say, I'm tired of people complaining that Adobe apps like Premiere just don't work right on the M1 or on this particular machine, because that's not an Apple problem, that's an Adobe problem. You know, if you're gonna use this machine, yeah, it does kind of make sense to maybe put the effort in to learn something like Final Cut Pro, which is made by Apple, because it runs so fast. It's ridiculous because Apple is able to integrate everything from top to bottom, hardware, software, and all points in between. Even so, I did run into just a couple of issues with certain apps not being all the way optimized to work with an M1 machine. And Rosetta is great, and it does a great job of converting some things on the fly, but nonetheless, there are some things that just weren't working quite right for me. So the lesson being, still at this point, you're gonna wanna make sure and do your homework before you purchase any of the M1 Macs, and make sure that your workhorse apps are going to run all right on Big Sur and with M1 silicon inside. But yes, without getting into all the technical, benchmark tests and stuff that you've seen in a million videos, I want to approach this from a more practical standpoint. The processor is truly phenomenal. It's pretty astounding what Apple was able to accomplish with the M1 this year. There's a cooling system in here, which is part of what sets this apart from the M1 powered MacBook Air. Among other things, it has a touch bar, it has a slightly bigger trackpad, etc., etc. The thing is, I'm not sure that cooling system ended up making a huge difference for me in my day-to-day usage, and I'm guessing that for most people who are looking at either the Air or this, it may not make that much of a difference. I'm not sure that most people are going to be able to push it to the places that it would need to go for that cooling system to make a big difference. Now, quick announcement, before we get any further, I have to let you guys know that AppleHype is finally back. It's online right now. You can go to applehype.com if you want to check it out. It's been up for 2 days, so there's some great app and accessory and news recommendations, tip recommendations to help you get more out of the Apple products that you love. And surprise, it's also going to be a daily podcast that's just gonna be a couple of minutes to bring you up to date. And it's also got its own YouTube channel. That's right, it's a video podcast as well. So every day, 12 Eastern, you're gonna be able to tune in just in time for your lunch break. So you can check out all the exciting new ways to connect with AppleHype down in the description. Let's talk about memory. This model that I have sitting right here has 8 gigabytes of memory. Now for me, that's not really enough. It's enough that I could get by with it. And I know other creators out there have made this their go-to daily workhorse system. But I think at any given time, for me, I could be using about 10 gigs of RAM easily with all the stuff I have going on, ranging from Chrome tabs that are open to actually getting some work done. So if it was me and I was gonna buy this for some serious work, I would go ahead and upgrade to that 16 gigs. I'm just telling you. And I know other people like Jeff Benjamin have stated that with their Mac Mini on the M1 chip as well, they would opt for that 16 gigs. So really do consider that if you're gonna be doing any kind of actual work. Now, I'm also gonna recommend to you that you go ahead and upgrade your internal storage. Now, this review unit that I've got here has a paltry 256 gigs SSD, solid state storage. That's just not enough for somebody like me. And that means that I have to end up using some external storage, which, okay, you can do, but there's also a problem with the ports. This only has 2 ports. And that means, yes, number one, you're probably gonna have to use a dongle for certain things. But I ran into some issues when I had to hook up this unpowered external drive here to get some work done, since my SSD was too small to store my 4K timelines. The problem being that I didn't have a dongle, and I'm not sure if there are dongles out there or hubs that can do this, that could power my unpowered drive. So I did have a dongle that I could hook into this USB-C cable here, but it couldn't power this unpowered drive. So I had to unplug my power cable here to be able to fit a dongle to read my SD card reader and to have a drive to import that footage onto as a scratch drive for my Final Cut Pro project. So 2 ports, not really enough. 256 gigs of internal storage, not really enough for somebody like me. So the lesson being, you might want to wait until you can get a MacBook Pro with some extra ports, or you may want to really upgrade the storage, if not both. Let's talk about the size, both the overall footprint and the size of this screen. Now, at 13 inches, this very much reminds me of toting around my 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which is not a bad thing. In fact, it feels lighter than that, and it stashes away in a backpack just like a dream. You almost don't even realize that you're carrying it around. The downside is that the screen feels a little bit squished for somebody who's coming from a 16-inch MacBook Pro. And it was hard for me to get used to that. Yeah, you can hook it up to a monitor and everything works great. No problem there. And you could also use Sidecar to expand your overall screen real estate. So it's not a deal killer, but when I'm not just writing or watching YouTube or surfing around in Chrome or Safari, when I'm doing some actual work, I'm talking about something like Final Cut Pro or maybe Lightroom, then it's just a little bit too small for my liking. Is the screen this size usable? Absolutely. I mean, I can think of a lot of founders of various startups who have coded on nothing but their 13-inch MacBook Pro and have built really cool things. It's just not my favorite. If I can have a bigger screen, I would like to. This trackpad is absolutely brilliant. I love using it. I have no complaints with it. So now that the keyboard complaints from various years past have been fixed, now that we have this inverted T arrow key design back, I just could sit here and type on this all day. Now, if you're primarily a writer, but you also do some heavy lifting when it comes to photo editing or something on the side, this is such a great machine. So really, if portability is your thing and you do need some extra power sometimes, I feel like this is an ideal machine for you. On the other hand, if you need more power most of the time and you need portability only some of the time, this may not be perfect for you. So I mentioned that one of the things that sets this apart from the MacBook Air is the touch bar. Now, the touch bar has been controversial over the years. Some people hate it. Other people really like it. I made a touch bar tips video a while back, and I was surprised in the comments how many people said they absolutely love the touch bar, or some people didn't really know what they could use it for until they saw that video with my tips, and then they said that they loved it. Although the rumors are saying that maybe Apple's gonna ditch the touch bar for upcoming Macs, for MacBook Pros, so we'll have to see what the future holds. Personally, I have not been somebody who traditionally dislikes the touch bar. So right next to the keyboard on either side of the laptop are the speaker grills. They're thinner than what you get on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, but wow, the sound coming out of here is really rich. This is a great way to consume some Andy Mineo. Unlike other sticklers on YouTube, I would absolutely use the mics on this machine to do some professional editing. If I needed to record a podcast and I didn't want to bring along a huge mic setup, I would use this, absolutely. Something that's not as impressive as I wish it was is the built-in camera up here. Apple did some interesting AI tricks this year to make the picture coming out of this camera better than it has been, but it still isn't as good as I feel like it should be for a computer that has a Pro label. So in conclusion, was I able in the end to make this my daily driver, my workhorse, something that actually gets used to support my business? And the answer was, well, no, not really. I did put it through its paces. I used it to do some projects and to get some work done, but I switched back to my 16-inch Intel-powered MacBook Pro, at least until a newer Mac is released that I can get along with just a little bit better for a couple of reasons. Number one, 8 gigs of storage, not enough. I could upgrade that to 16, right? But even so, I have this port situation. I would like more ports, and the rumors say we're gonna get more ports on upcoming MacBook Pros. The rumors also say we might see the return of an SD card reader that's built right in. And so it sounds like the dongle life may be coming to an end, that era. I don't know. I would like to see it though. Don't forget that AppleHype is back. This is one of the first videos. There's so many great recommendations. I'm gonna be coming at you guys daily with an app recommendation, an accessory recommendation, a tip, and some other information that's gonna help you get the most out of your Apple ecosystem. I'm really excited about it. It used to just be a website. It is now, like I said, a video podcast as well as just an audio podcast, so you can consume it however you want to. It's gonna be there for you at 12 noon Eastern time, Monday through Friday. So hit the links in the description, give us some support so that we're motivated to push this content out for you guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later.